in consideration of his notable contribution to the field of accountancy and the accounting profession at large, and for his dedicated service to education and the corporate sector in this country. At its sitting of 21st July 2023, the UNISA Council anonymously agreed to confer an honorary doctorate in accounting sciences on Sizwe Nxasana. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the honor to request you to confer on Sizwe Nxasana the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Accounting Sciences, honoris causa.
I confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Accounting Sciences, honoris causa, on Sizwe Nxasana.
We can. Okay.
Okay.
Your acceptance message. Thanks a lot.
The Chancellor, former President Mbeki, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Lenkabua, members of Council, academic leadership, staff, family, friends, colleagues, alumni and graduates today. Let's give them a big round of applause, the graduates. I stand before you this evening, humbled by the recognition bestowed upon me by my alma mater. In fact, I'm still a student here and I'm writing exams on Friday. To my wife, Dr. Judy Lamini, my children, Nandi and Bonisi Masugu, Kanyezi and Lufuno Makari, and my grandchildren, Pila, who's here, Sitle, who's also here, Makeda, Mansa and Kari, they're still too little, so they have to go to bed a bit early. You all have given me immeasurable joy, meaning, and purpose. And I thank you for your inspiration and for your amazing love and unwavering support. To my siblings and family, Omkiwa, Okau, Mbagela, Otunjana, Skonza, Onyoge Mnyama, Eacandisiziba, Sizulwane Somutwa, Aukikizanpe. Sizulwane Selau, Mahlata Yopela, Sushona Pina, Ononduna. This is a family whose values, cultures, and beliefs have helped to shape the person that I am today. I am uplifted by my late son, Sfiso, whose name we have called our education group Sifiso Learning Group. And I'm also uplifted by my late mother, Evelyn Nxasana. I'll tell you a little story. When my father passed away, she had the courage at the age 50, with 7 children, to pursue her matric. She went on to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Nursing Science in 1985 at this very institution. And she was 58 years old when she did. I'm uplifted by my late father, Sfiso also, who took our surname, Nxasana, and coined the phrase Nxasamatics, which taught me to be courageous and not fear mathematics. Yesterday, which was Sunday, I was playing with my 2 grandchildren, and we were playing 30 seconds. I'm sure some of you know this game called 30 seconds. And 2 of my grandchildren who are here, who are celebrating this occasion, were playing with me, and I was losing. I was losing 30 seconds. And so to distract them from winning, I asked them what I should talk about tonight at this graduation ceremony. In fact, they're sitting right there. Pila, my 12-year-old grandson, said, I should talk about superheroes. But he said to me, I mustn't talk about the kind of superheroes like Wonder Woman and Batman. He said, I must talk about superheroes of a special kind. Those superheroes who do amazing things but go unnoticed and are often marginalized. Sihle, my 10-year-old granddaughter, who's here also, said I should talk about gratitude and thank all those that I live and work with. Those who make it possible for me to follow my dreams and my passions. So today, I'm inspired by superheroes and immense gratitude. So when I retired from corporate life, and thanks very much, Dr. Hlongwane, for that introduction, I decided to choose a different path from that which is often chosen by former corporate executives. I decided to dedicate this chapter of my life to contributing to finding solutions to education, to improving the quality of education in our country. That's why today I'm actually a little bit in a conflict. I have my colleagues here as accountants who were introduced earlier by the Vice-Chancellor as well as by Dr. Hlongwane. But I actually saw the light much later in my life and decided to be a school teacher. That's why this coming Friday, Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor, I'm writing my exams as part of my PGCE qualification. At the same time, I decided to pursue a PhD in education. So I'm a PhD candidate at Aalborg University in Denmark, so I travel back and forth. In our group, I'm the only distant student, which essentially means I get to experience a lot of things that a lot of the students sitting in this room experience. And of course, I'm still experiencing, the same, you are colleagues to me. So I'm busy with my paper. I have to do 3 peer-reviewed papers, plus my thesis by next year. So it's tough going, I must say that. But it's because I strongly believe that if you're trying to solve any problem, it's important to feel what it's like and experience the system you are trying to improve. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm humbled and eternally grateful for my team at Sifiso Learning Group and Future Nation Schools. Those are the schools that my wife Judy and I started, not because we were saying, come to our independent or private schools because the public system is not working. We started the schools actually, I remember it was exactly a month after our son Sifiso passed. We wanted to recognize his legacy because he was a wonderful young man. He was involved in teaching mathematics to young kids. And we wanted to start a school in his name. I won't tell the story because it's a little bit of a long story. But that's actually how Future Nation Schools was born. And we have 2 campuses with just about 1,500 students. The whole idea is to come up with new ideas of learning and teaching, of curriculum. So we follow project-based learning as an approach to learning and teaching. That's why I'm doing a PhD in PBL, in project-based learning in Denmark, because it's a UNESCO center for project-based learning. So that's how Future Nation Schools was started. But the important thing is that every day at Future Nation Schools, we have public school teachers that we're exposing to our ways of doing things, we're learning from them at the same time. So the whole idea is to share experiences, to try and innovate so that we can share with a bigger system. That's one of the reasons why 10 years ago, I approached Minister Angie Motshekga together with Dr. Godwin Khosa. And that's how the National Education Collaboration Trust was born. We're able to get teacher unions, organized business, and a few others. And today, the NECT, the National Education Collaboration Trust, which celebrated its 10 years about 3 weeks ago, is now involved in curriculum development and design, in teacher training and development, in over 19,000 of the 25,000 schools in this country. So I'm really thankful for Minister Angie Motshekga for allowing us as a private sector, as a corporate sector, as teacher unions to work together to try and find solutions to our intractable problems in education. But I'm also uplifted by Marketplace Academy, under the courageous leadership of Professor Wiseman Kuhlu, who, by the way, as the first African chartered accountant, he paved the way for many of us to follow. I'm really honored and privileged to be able to work with him now in the education space. And together with Mrs. Chantal Mulder, who's the Executive Director of Marketplace Academy, this organization, which is only just over a year old, and in a very short space of time, since it was established, is mobilizing many superheroes, the private sector, and supporting education reform and introduction of the 3-stream curriculum. We've started in Gauteng, and Marketplace Academy provides real certified, micro-credentialed skills and competencies to learners when they're still at school. So we've mobilized many large companies already that are part of our program. I'm also grateful and inspired by the courage and leadership of Ikusasa Student Financial Aid Scheme under the leadership of Morne Dutait. Some of you may know that I was the chair of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS. In fact, we started, I was brought in by Minister Blade Nzimande on the 12th of October, 2015, exactly 2 days before Professor Adam Habib was made to sit at Solomon Mahlangu on the floor, and the students started #FeesMustFall. That's the time when I joined NSFAS. To cut long story short, we started ISFAP, which is Ikusasa Student Financial Aid Program, in 2017, and today the organization continues to fund students from the so-called missing middle, particularly those pursuing occupations in high demand in our universities. And in our period of existence, we have raised more than 1.25 billion rand and funded more than 2,800 students who are pursuing degrees at various universities in engineering, medicine, data science, accounting, especially those careers that are occupations in high demand. I'm inspired by the courage and determination and sacrifices of more than 50,000 superheroes. And these are students who are graduating at UNISA this year, and all of those who have graduated at UNISA since it was established. As the Vice-Chancellor said earlier, UNISA is not only one of the largest universities in the world, but an open distance e-learning institution which enables individuals like my mother, Sizwe Nxasana, who had doors shut in their faces by other universities and institutions, maybe because they were too old or too poor. And UNISA provides opportunities for these people to muster the courage to pursue and realize their dreams against all odds. In your time here, especially those who are still pursuing their studies at UNISA, I'm sure you will know and agree with me when I say that pursuing your studies through UNISA is no mean feat. It is no child's play. And I'm talking from experience here, because it's not for the faint-hearted, because without the campus experience which students at contact universities enjoy, it's often a lonely journey. And if you are a student at UNISA, you may also suffer from anxiety and other constraints, including lack of internet connectivity, load shedding, which affects a lot of us much more than it affects students at contact universities. So you need to have courage, self-belief, confidence, motivation in abundance to soldier on in the face of adversities. So that's why it's really remarkable, and we need to celebrate all the graduates who are graduating here today. But whilst these challenges may feel excruciating and seemingly devoid of purpose, it's important to remember that they often serve as a catalyst for growth, resilience, and compassion. I just want to tell you a little story. Consider for a minute the life of a caterpillar. So a caterpillar spends its early days crawling on the ground, entirely earth ground. And like the caterpillar, we often find ourselves tethered to the mundane and ordinary aspects of life, especially if you study at UNISA. Yet, within the humble existence that lies the potential of an astonishing transformation and growth. I meet a lot of UNISA students who may be working as cashiers at supermarkets, who may be working sometimes as packers, and UNISA provides them with an opportunity to realize their dreams. So they may appear to be doing mundane tasks, and sometimes we ignore them because there are people who may be regarded as lower in the economic strata of our country. But because UNISA is here, it provides them an opportunity to realize their dreams. Like a caterpillar, which grows in a cocoon, a caterpillar undergoes profound metamorphosis, emerging as a beautiful butterfly capable of soaring the skies. And this is the paradox that mirrors our own lives as students here at UNISA. You see, we have the capacity to break free from the constraints that hold us back, to spread our wings and to reach new heights. And life's paradox is that our most profound transformation often emerges from the very limitations that bind us. Just as a caterpillar's wings develop in the cocoon's confinement, I just want to urge you to embrace the life paradoxes, for within them you may find the beauty of your own unique journey as you graduate here at UNISA. But the story of the caterpillar is actually mirrored in our own country. Now, more than ever before, South Africa needs courageous leadership to deal with its challenges and to find ways to end the suffering that most of our communities that live in poverty and unemployment face. In order to be courageous and have any chance of truly addressing the challenges that we face, we need to seek the truth. And in our world, where the pursuit of being liked, the willingness to please, the desperation to belong, the deliberate obfuscation of facts, where that often prevails, along with a tendency to be mean and seek to destroy those who disagree with us, we found ourselves in a world where our desire to appear balanced and to be politically correct often denies us the ability to speak the truth and demonstrate courage. Take education as an example. Despite significant investments in education, South Africa continues to struggle to improve the quality of its education system. Yes, the Department of Basic Education and Department of Higher Education and Training have introduced reforms aimed at bettering and preparing our young people for a rapidly changing job market. But whilst these reforms break away from apartheid-era system and target funding ways towards especially targeting disadvantaged students, the persisting issue lies in our own low quality of education, especially when it comes to the historically disadvantaged communities. And until we fix this, we'll continue to experience the high levels of inequality, unemployment, and poverty. Recently, the plight of our children not being able to read for meaning has received much attention in public discourse and the media. And whilst it is good that we are starting to see positive developments in improving the situation, much more has to be done, particularly to promote the indigenous languages as languages of learning and teaching, but also as commercial languages. To use our indigenous languages in commerce and in business is something that has to be looked at. You know, at Future Nation schools, we often fight with parents who insist that their children must do Afrikaans. And they come to us, we say, no, you know, in fact, we phased out Afrikaans in our schools. But parents tell us that, no, but you know, Afrikaans puts food on the table. If you look at government tenders as an example, very often they're issued in English and Afrikaans, and none in our indigenous languages. You look at learning and teaching, Afrikaans is an academic language. That's why it does put food on the table. So we have to address, and I'm really pleased that UNISA is doing something about indigenous languages, but there are broader structural and policy issues that we have to address as a country to recognize our indigenous languages as languages that should be used, not just in the foundation phase, grade R, 1, 2, and 3, but also should be used where we develop lexicology and terminology as academic languages and as commercial languages. And I think it's a really, really important thing that will go a long way in solving the problem of our children not being able to read for meaning. Why? Because suddenly, a lot of investment and money will go into developing our languages and producing books and literature. I have 2 or 3 grandchildren whose parents are right there, and they are Venda, they're proudly Venda. I can't tell you how difficult it is for us as grandparents or their parents, Gayezi and Lufuno, to find books in Chivenda to read to them as proudly Venda children. We simply just, so that's why my wife started, she writes books, and she wrote books that were translated in Chivenda, as an example, because it's one of the marginalized languages in our country. So there's no way our children can read for meaning if languages such as Tshivenda, Sepedi, Setsonga, Sindebele are actually marginalized, and they continue to be marginalized. The other challenge that we continue to face in our country is the issue of mathematics. I talked about the story of my father who coined the phrase Nxasamatics. So all of us, as my 6 siblings, grew up understanding that mathematics was not this terrible thing that we needed to fear. It was something that we expected to know, we expected when we play games, whatever we did, there had to be mathematics in it. So all of us did well in mathematics because we just didn't fear it. But when you look at what's happening in our country, let me just take last year, 2022. More than 725,000 young people wrote the National Senior Certificate. 725,000. Out of that, only just over 35,000, you can do your maths, got above 60% in mathematics. But the sad story is actually the fact that 222,000 were doing mathematics, and the balance of just over 500 million were doing maths literacy. So we have almost 2/3 of our young people who are doing maths literacy, and about 1/3 that are doing mathematics. And that essentially means that out of the 35,000 that we produced last year, we have to produce doctors, engineers, data scientists, accountants, artisans, technicians. And the rest are essentially relegated to go and pursue humanities degrees. Not that humanities degrees are not important, but in an economy where we talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution, or the 5th Industrial Revolution, which is already upon us, essentially we're denying the majority by far of our students from realizing their full potential and meaningfully participating in the economy. Another issue of serious concern is teacher preparation and how teaching takes place across the majority of our schools. Because as we know, there can never be quality education without quality teachers. Technology can't do that on its own. In this regard, UNISA is a national asset and plays a crucial role in advancing the national development goals, primarily through its preeminent focus on teacher education. So I think that requires a big round of applause. Every year, UNISA enrolls more than 50% of the student teachers and graduates just over 40% in our own country. I'm one of those students, by the way. And as a current PGCE student at UNISA, I believe that by enhancing the quality of teacher preparation through the use of relevant and up-to-date curricula aimed at preparing teachers as effective mediators of the 4th and 5th Industrial Revolutions, by implementing improved instructional practices, by incorporating advanced systems and technologies such as artificial intelligence to support our students, by collaborating closely with the DBE to achieve better coordinated teaching practices, and by enhancing continuing teacher development, UNISA has the potential to make a significant contribution in improving the quality of education in our country. So I serve on a number of foundations and trusts that are involved in education, and as a collective, we're working with the DBE to address the challenges and give hope, opportunities, and a better chance of success to the young people in our country. So whilst UNISA is a beacon of hope and an institution of critical thought and knowledge and production, it is undeniable that this institution itself is facing challenging times. And these challenges have found their way into the public domain and created serious anxiety and trust deficit in the minds of many students, alumni, and the public. And UNISA's challenges of academic leadership, of meeting the needs of students and improving their chances of success have to be addressed as a matter of urgency. Once again, I want to refer to the story of the caterpillar. It's important to recognize that crisis presents us with the greatest opportunity of transformation and growth if we can find the resilience, determination, and innovation that we need to rebuild and redefine ourselves. And if we do that, we have the chance to emerge stronger, more united, and better equipped to face the future. As I stand before you today, I want to remind you that you face challenges, but you need to ask yourself, what is my purpose? Sometimes that purpose may seem elusive. Sometimes it takes time to come to you. I found my purpose very late in life, that I'm actually a school teacher. So you have to keep looking. You have to keep asking. And if you believe in God, you must pray about it. If you believe in ancestors, you must slaughter and talk to them. Ask for guidance. Ask for inspiration and the courage to be a superhero in your own right. And by the way, UNISA really stands a chance of being a superhero itself. So when you find your purpose, and you will, let it guide you out of the dark moments and out of the challenges that you face. So I want to conclude by congratulating each and every one of you, my fellow graduates. For you, you are superheroes of your own stories. Each one of you have your own stories. And the world awaits you and your extraordinary contributions. May you find courage for the truth. May your journey be filled with continued growth, resilience, boundless gratitude, and courage. I thank you.